Hello everyone. Today I'll be talking about the caching pattern, which is a widely used pattern across different types of application development. So we are talking about Java development right now. I'll be showing you the Java code, how to implement different caching strategies. So let's see what this text says. So it says caching pattern describes how to avoid expensive requisition of the resources by not releasing the resources immediately after their use. The resources retain their identity, are kept in some fast access storage, and are reused to avoid having to acquire them again. There are four main caching strategies or techniques in this pattern, each with their own pros and cons. So let's discuss about these strategies. We can see this is the first one, which is write through, then write around, write behind, cache is aside, and read through. So write through is writes data to the cache and DB in a single transaction. Write around is write data immediately into the DB instead of the cache. Write behind writes data into the cache initially, whilst the data is only written into the DB when the cache is full. Cache aside, which pushes the responsibility of keeping the data synchronized in both data source to the application itself. So cache aside basically pushes the responsibility of keeping the data synchronized in the both data sources. So both data sources will be the cache and the DB here. So the application basically do the synchronization of the data in both of the data sources. So that's the cache aside strategy. Read through is returns data from the cache to the caller if it exists, else query the query from DB and stores it into the cache for future use. So there are the 5 strategies. So basically they are write through, then write behind, write around, cache aside, and read through strategies. That's what it is there. These strategies determine when the data in the cache should be written back to the backing store, that is database. So backing store is nothing but the database, and have to keep both data sources synchronized. This pattern can improve performance and also helps to maintain consistency between data held in the cache and the data in the underlying data source. In this example, the user account entity is used as the underlying application data. The cache itself is implemented as internal Java data structure. It all adopts a least recent used strategy for evicting data from itself when it's full. The 4 strategies are individually tested. The testing of the cache is restricted towards saving and querying of the user accounts from the underlying data source. The main class app is not aware of the underlying mechanics of the application, that is save or query, and whether the data is coming from the cache or the DB, or that is separation of concerns. The app manager handles the transaction of data and to and from the underlying data source depending on the preferred caching strategy. So this is the main class which has a main method. This is for logging different things so that it will be more clear to us. It is using this logger factory which is coming from the SLF4J. We'll be using logger for logging out different important stuff like this one here also. So let's look at the main method. This is the app manager. So you can see this is the app manager in this particular flows. So app is basically using app manager to call different cache, store, LRU cache, and caching policy methods. These are different classes in our application. As you can see, LRU cache is there, then caching policy is there, and then cache store is there. Okay, now let's see what it is doing. So what it does is, here this is for initialization of DB, which is use MongoDB false, we are assigning it. So virtual DB instead of MongoDB will be used for running the JUnit tests. Okay, and the app class, to avoid Maven compilation errors, set flag to true to run the test with the MongoDB. So if you want to use the MongoDB, then we have to set it to true, provided that MongoDB is installed and socket connection is open for the MongoDB. So since we have used false here, the virtual DB will be used for running the JUnit test and this main method. So let's see what is there in the initDB inside the app manager. So this, what it does is, if this is false, then it will come to create the virtual DB manager, and inside DB manager this create virtual DB is there, which is MongoDB to false, and virtual DB will be nothing but a hash map. Okay, so the hash map is being used like a virtual DB for this app. Let's go to the app method to see the flow again. So this calls the app manager, and the app manager is basically using all these classes, and from here it's going to the DB manager. So it's the same. initDB goes to app manager. From here we go to the DB manager. It's nothing but the create virtual DB. So this is one thing which is very clear now. So this virtual DB is nothing but a hash map. That's good. Now initiate cache capacity. So this method is being for initiating the cache capacity. Let's open and see what it is doing. Cache store init capacity. The cache store method is having this particular method to initiate the capacity to some value. So if the cache is equal to null, it will create a LRU cache, else it will set the capacity. So since it is being used for the first time, the LRU cache will be instantiated. So LRU cache. So this method will be created. So this LRU cache is basically creating the cache. So this is the line of code which is basically creating the cache. So here we are instantiating the DB, and here we are instantiating the cache. Now we are creating the instance of this particular class, and this being used to call different methods on this class. So these are the methods in this same class. So let's see at the structure. It says use read and write through, use read and write through strategy, then use read and write around strategy, then behind strategy, then cache stride strategy. So it's pretty clear what this method is doing. It is instantiating the DB, then instantiating the cache, then calling all the 4 methods on this. Okay, now let's look at this particular method again, what it is doing. I'll close this. So init capacity, This is